The fluorescent lights of the grocery store hummed overhead as Marcus wheeled his cart down the cereal aisle, mentally calculating his weekly budget. It was just another Tuesday evening in suburbia, until a small voice shattered his routine thoughts and changed everything. "Mama, do we have enough?" The question came from somewhere behind him, soft and trembling with a child's uncertainty. Marcus wouldn't have normally paid attention, but something in that little voice made him pause. He pretended to examine a box of cornflakes while glancing over his shoulder. A young girl, no more than 7 years old, stood beside a shopping cart that held exactly 3 items: a loaf of bread, a jar of peanut butter, and a small carton of milk. Her mother knelt beside her, and Marcus could see the woman's hands trembling as she opened a small change purse, counting coins with the careful precision of someone for whom every penny carried the weight of survival. "Let me see, baby," the mother whispered, her voice cracking slightly. She wore scrubs, the kind nurses or hospital staff wore, and her shoes were worn thin at the heels. Dark circles shadowed her eyes, speaking of double shifts and sleepless nights. Marcus turned back to his cart, suddenly conscious of its contents. Steaks for Friday night, fresh strawberries, a bottle of wine he didn't need. Name brand everything, chosen without a second thought about price tags. The little girl's voice came again, quieter now. "Is it enough for the eggs too? You said we needed eggs." Marcus heard the soft clink of coins, then a pause that seemed to stretch forever. "Not this time, sweetheart. But we have what we need. We always do." The mother's words were brave, but Marcus caught the hitch in her voice. He recognized that particular brand of courage, the kind parents summon when they're breaking inside but refuse to let their children see the cracks. He should move on, mind his business, keep shopping. That's what the old Marcus would have done. The Marcus from before his daughter Emma was born. The Marcus who believed that everyone's circumstances were their own responsibility. But fatherhood had cracked something open in him. Every time he looked at Emma's face, he saw every child's face. Every time he tucked her into bed with a full belly and a warm blanket, he thought about the children who went to bed hungry and cold. Marcus made a decision. He abandoned his cart in the aisle and walked quickly to the front of the store, his mind racing. At the customer service desk, he pulled out his wallet and handed the clerk his credit card. "I need you to do something for me," he said quietly. "There's a woman in the cereal aisle, wearing blue scrubs, shopping with a little girl. When she comes to check out, I want you to tell her that her groceries have been paid for. Don't tell her who did it. Just that someone wanted to help." The clerk, an older woman with kind eyes, smiled. "How much should I put on the card?" Marcus thought for a moment. $200. And if she doesn't use it all, let her know the balance can be used next time she shops. "That's very generous," the clerk said softly. "Just tell her to pay it forward when she can," Marcus replied. He returned to the aisle, picked up his cart, and repositioned himself where he could watch without being obvious. His heart hammered in his chest, and he realized his hands were shaking slightly. Why was he so nervous? He'd just given money before, to charities, to fundraisers, written checks that were tax-deductible and easy. But this felt different. This was looking into the face of struggle and choosing to step into someone's story. The mother and daughter made their way slowly through the store. Marcus watched as the little girl pointed hopefully at items they passed: a bunch of bananas, a box of cereal with a cartoon character on it, a small bunch of flowers. Each time, her mother would gently shake her head, and each time, the little girl would nod solemnly, accepting the disappointment with a grace that broke Marcus's heart. They added only 2 more items to their cart: a package of pasta and a can of tomato sauce. Dinner for several days, Marcus realized. Stretched and rationed and made to last. When they headed toward the checkout lanes, Marcus followed at a distance, pretending to compare prices on items he had no intention of buying. The mother began carefully placing her items on the conveyor belt, while the little girl stood on tiptoe to watch the total climb on the register screen. Marcus saw the mother counting her change again, her lips moving silently. The cashier, a teenage boy who looked bored with his job, scanned the items without interest. $17.43, he announced. The mother handed over her carefully counted money. The boy took it, started to put it in the register, then paused. He looked confused, checking his screen, then glanced toward the customer service desk. "Hang on a second," he said, picking up his phone. Marcus watched as the customer service clerk came over, the same kind-eyed woman he'd spoken with earlier. She leaned close to the young cashier and whispered something to him. His eyes widened, and he looked at the mother with new attention. "Ma'am," he said, his bored tone suddenly gone, "your groceries have been paid for." The mother blinked. "What? No, I have money right here." "Someone already paid," the woman from customer service explained gently. "They left $200 on an account for you. For your groceries today and next time you shop." The mother's face went blank with shock. "Who? I don't understand. There must be a mistake." "No mistake. Someone just wanted to help. They asked us to tell you to pay it forward when you're able." Marcus watched as the mother's carefully maintained composure crumbled. Her hand flew to her mouth, and tears began streaming down her face. The little girl looked up at her mother with wide, worried eyes. "Mama, why are you crying?" The mother knelt down and pulled her daughter into a fierce embrace. "Because people are good, baby. Because people are so good. So we can get the eggs?" the little girl asked hopefully. The mother laughed through her tears, a sound of pure relief and joy. "Yes, baby. We can get the eggs. And the bananas. And that cereal you wanted." Marcus felt his own eyes burning as he watched the little girl's face light up with wonder. She took off running back into the store, her mother calling after her with laughing sobs to slow down. The customer service clerk caught Marcus's eye and gave him a small, knowing nod. He nodded back, then quietly made his way to a different checkout lane. As he loaded his own groceries onto the belt, he thought about the question the little girl had asked, "Do we have enough?" It was a question he'd never had to ask, not really. He'd grown up comfortable, worked hard, made good money. He had always had enough, more than enough. But he'd never truly understood what enough meant until he heard it in that child's voice. Enough wasn't about abundance. It was about survival, about making it through another day, about the basic dignity of feeding your family. As Marcus drove home, he thought about his own daughter, probably already bathed and in her pajamas, waiting for him to read her a bedtime story. He thought about the little girl in the store, who would go to bed tonight with a full belly because a stranger chose kindness. He didn't feel like a hero. He felt like someone who had finally woken up to the reality that surrounded him every day, that behind every face in every store, there were stories of struggle and courage he would never fully know. When he got home, Emma ran to the door to greet him. He scooped her up and held her tight, breathing in the scent of her strawberry shampoo. "Daddy, you're squishing me." She giggled. "Sorry, princess," he said, setting her down but keeping hold of her hand. "I just really love you." That night, after reading 3 bedtime stories instead of the usual one, Marcus sat at his kitchen table and made a new budget. Not for groceries or bills, but for kindness. A monthly amount set aside specifically for moments like today. For strangers who needed to know they weren't alone. For little girls who asked if there was enough. Because there was enough. There was always enough. Enough compassion, enough generosity, enough humanity, if people just chose to share it. And in that choice, Marcus had found something he didn't know he'd been missing. The profound joy of being part of someone else's answered prayer. The invisible thread that connects one human heart to another across the aisles of an ordinary grocery store on an ordinary Tuesday evening that turned out to be extraordinary after all.